Good afternoon, fans of sport. We're going to break down the Philly sports media field of 64 brackets, starting up in the upper left, or as I like to call it, the north left quadrant, the radio region. This year we decided to combine WIP and 97.5. I had a hard time getting 16 seeds out of each last year. And what happened was you were presented with a scenario where guys like Mike Missinelli were going up guys who really only competed against Mike and Angelo in their respective brackets because it was a vote against Mike or Angelo, not a vote for the other guy. In the tournament, in the NCAA tournament, when an underdog wins, it's because they outperform the big guy, not because the big guy fails to show up, usually. In this case, we were having some of the big names go down simply because with more fans comes more haters, and the haters were voting against them, and that's why they were losing. That's not fair. It doesn't preserve the integrity of the contest. So we decided to combine radio into one. So the 16 seeds in here are all deserving, mostly full-time hosts or big names, all belonging in here. And if a lower seed does win, then they at least are good enough to win on their own name. We had people last year who no one even heard of having upsets simply because they didn't like the top line name. That ain't fair. Let's get into it. The 116 game, Angelo Cataldi, Ike Reese, getting a lot of pushback about Ike Reese on Twitter because he won the stupid Great Birds debate. I don't think Ike Reese is very good. He's lucky to be in here. He won his small conference, and he is lucky to be in here. If you like him that much, vote for him against Cataldi. But Cataldi makes like $1.9 million, so he's the easy one seed here, and deservingly so. Been doing it a long time. Host of, as of now, the only local sports talk morning show. They're going to play the winner of the 8-9 matchup, Harry Mays, Jody Mack. Like this. Two real solid competitors here. Jody not in the field last year. Actually, my fault. I didn't realize he was doing like Thursday nights on WIP at 10 o'clock. He deserves to be in here. Longtime Philly sports radio host. He's also still hosts in New York. I think he's done some national work. He definitely deserves to be in here. Two solid guys. I like this matchup. A classic 8-9. Both of these have the ability to upset a 1 as well, so keep an eye out for that. The 5-12. Sometimes the committee likes to have some fun with the seedings. Glenn and Big Daddy, good friends, I guess. Co-authors, Philly Book of Sports List. Maybe there's another one in there. I thought this would be an intriguing matchup. Both bring, a slightly older demo, and that's okay. I think Glenn probably pulls this out, but again, this is a good matchup. Two long-time names. Big Daddy's at a disadvantage because our readership isn't the nighttime audience. It's just not quite his audience. So I'd like the 5 seed coming out here if I had to make a prediction. But good classic 5-12 matchup. 4-13. Sean Brace gets no love on this website in the comments. He seems to be struggling with it on Twitter as well. Fact of the matter is he's been on daytime 97.5 for a few years now. Deserves to be in the tournament. He's a 13 seed. Tony's a 4 seed. It is what it is. I wouldn't expect the upset here, but I think that's a good seeding by the committee. 6-11 game. Al Morganti, Nick Kale. I like both guys. I'm on Nick's show quite a few times. I know Al a little bit from Great Sports Debate. A picture of him and my grandmother is the home screen on her flip phone because he's Italian and she's Italian. So, I don't know who I like here, but I think it's a good 6-11 matchup. Both guys more than capable. Nick bringing a lot of knowledge at night. Really like his in-depth knowledge. Knows a lot. Doesn't quite get credit for it. Been pounding away in the evenings for a long time. Deserves a good shot. Al, obviously, hey, create a wing ball, among many other things. And he used to have a mullet on ESPN, too. Like Al, too. Good matchup. The 3-14. A lot of pushback here on Gargano as the 3 seed. Look, he's not on the radio right now, but he was for a long time. And by the time this tournament is over, he may very well be on a potential morning show or midday show on 97.5. So he deserves to be in here. Is he seated a little high? Yeah, maybe. These aren't a ranking necessarily. Sometimes it's where you finished in your conference. It's how the brackets shake out. The committee likes to get some matchups. They also like to avoid other matchups, interconference, stuff like that. Travel time is considered. So he's a 3-seeded is what it is. Shut up about it. He'll play Etan Shander. The 7-10, Josh Innes, John Marks. Look, Josh is Wichita State, came out of nowhere last year. Now he's sort of a known entity, getting a little bit of respect in the seed and can do a lot of damage, quite frankly. Meanwhile, you got John Marks, who I think is very good, been on 97.5 forever in multiple capacities. Good solid matchup here. Both kind of young guys. You have one guy who's been around a little longer, more of a Philly guy, and then you have another guy who's an outsider, but very polished on the radio, and sometimes acts like a jackass. But we see what we got. Really, that seeding there. Look, loving the second round matchup here. If Mike gets by Rhea and Josh gets by John, you got Josh Mike Friday afternoon in Philly. Great matchup there. Mike obviously going up against Rhea. No disrespect to Rhea here, but I can't have 3 people from the morning show in, like, say, the top 10 seeds. There's 3 people on that show and they got 3 of the 16 seats. So no disrespect to Rhea. It's just, again, how the seeding works itself out. Let's slide it on down to the south left, the print media bracket over here. Sheil Kapadia coming in with the 1 seed, kind of like that Nova 1 seed, flying under the radar, but just consistently solid. People love him on Twitter, in the comments. His Eagles game breakdowns are like none other. Is he a classic one? No, but he gets so much respect that he's clearly deserving of it. Derek Bodner, Liberty Ballers. Look, if you're not a Sixers fan, you're probably not real familiar with, or even a hardcore Sixers fan, you're probably not real familiar with Derek Bodner's work over at Liberty Ballers. But if you are involved in the Sixers and what they're doing, then you are following Derek, and you should be a fan of his because he does a really good job. 16 seeds, not quite fair here because a lot of Derek's crowd is also a Sheil crowd. Derek himself said he would vote for Sheil, so it's a tough draw. But hey, he's dancing. He's got his shoes on. 8-9. Classic battle here, interconference matchup, all rules thrown out the window. It's going to be a real scrap fest. Now, I think these guys may have made up, but I don't even care. They're going to bloody each other. This might be, we just might have to wipe out this part of the bracket if neither body is capable of moving on. So therefore, ergo, I like Sheil into the Sweet 16 uncontested, perhaps literally in the second round if both of these guys have passed away as a result of their matchup. 5-12, Jeff McLean, Ryan Lawrence. A little mainstream matchup here. Longtime Phillies reporter, longtime Eagles reporter. Phillies reporters had it tough this year. Tough conference for the Phillies reporters. Just not a lot of good product to deal with over there. And it hurt them in their rankings, quite frankly. Lots of Eagles guys at the top. Big strong power conference covering the Birds this year. Good matchup. Classic 5-12, anyone can win. I'd say McLean's a slight favorite. 4-13, little new media matchup here. Both Eagles guys, Jimmy Kempski, Stick Figures, Blogging the East, Philly.com, now the Philly Voice, part of Liberty Broadcast. Meanwhile, Brandon Lee Gouton, editor, Bleeding Green Nation, which has just been killing it lately. Toss-up. Really a toss-up. Jimmy, I think, used to write for Bleeding Green Nation, so this is a good new school matchup here. High-flying acrobatics, lots of stick figures. Expect some broken limbs there. Who knows? 6-11, Saravalli, Sealski, another one of the classic newspaper matchups. Saravalli, far and away the best full-time Flyers beat guy. He's the only one on here. Against Sealski, I think sometimes Sealski goes a little too far, and he kind of annoys me on Twitter, but he's a good writer. He's a good columnist. This is a good matchup. Classic beat reporter versus columnist. Sealski is a Wall Street Journal, so he's got a little bit of that big-time pedigree. Who knows? This will be your call. 3-14. Two classic Eagles beat guys, Tim McManus, Reuben Frank, Tim and Sheil. That Philly Mag division over there is just ridiculous. They got to 1 and 3 seed here. Tim, actually uses sources, unlike, say someone like Rube, who complains that there's not a press conference. That said, Rube is pretty good with his game breakdowns. He's really good with the numbers, on the fly, tweeting them during Eagles games. Longtime classic Eagles reporter, knows his shit maybe better than anyone. I would expect him to win here just based on our audience, but I think Rube definitely deserves to be in here. 7-10, Elliott Shore-Parks. I wrote at the end of the year that NJ.com was my local media outlet of the year. I really think they get writing for an online audience. And Elliott does a great job. He writes around the clock. He works hard. This isn't a gift by any stretch, but the guy just churns out material more quickly than pretty much anyone. So you got to hand it to him. It's good stuff. There's obviously the Deshaun Jackson story from last year, among many others. I know he probably feels the same way I do about always being lumped in with Riley Cooper. Just a lot of good product coming out of there. Against Dick Girardi, old school Dick and his neck waddle, whatever that is. It's not healthy looking. Good guy, lives in the Palestra, I think. He just crawls around the basement at night, dragging his neck behind him, whatever. Good matchup here. 215, Jim Salisbury. Pretty much the cream of the crop amongst Phillies guys, partly because he's been doing it so long and has so many connections. He's, he used to golf with Charlie Manuel. He's got, I'm sure, Ruben Amaro in his recent calls at any given time of day. And he's with CSN now, so he gets a lot of the scoops, just because when you're umbilically attached to Comcast, that helps. First, Kevin Cooney, Bucks County area, Calkins Media. I don't know. There's like 12 local papers that some of these guys write for. It's Calkins Media is the company. Kevin's good. He's been on our show, and just consistent. Covers a lot of stuff, mostly Phillies, but good tweeter. Very pessimistic, sarcastic. Maybe cynical is a better word, but I enjoy him. Good dude, good matchup. Probably like Salisbury. He's going to be the heavy favorite here, but that's your 215 match. Sliding it on down. This is still on the left here because of the way this bracket is set up, but if you were to print this out, it would be top right. So we're going to go north right here. The 116, John Clark, Jeff Skversky. John getting maybe the unexpected one over Barkan here. John is Barkan 2.0. He's the sport point man for NBC 10, working out at Comcast. He's continually taking on more of a role at Comcast. He's always at the airport, fucking interviewing Tim Tebow at the U.S. Air baggage check-in last night. Dude works his balls off. So I think he deserved the one here. I'm told he's good friends with Jeff Skversky, 6ABC. They're both kind of outrageously tall in person. So, good matchup. Big battle of the bigs, if you will. 8-9, Howard Eskin, Marshall Harris. Howard, classic power conference 9. Can do damage any year, but could also flame out early. Against Marshall Harris, who, just steady workhorse, CSN Philly. 5-12, couple of the Bs. Ron Burke, John Borick. Ron going back to toe taps the rubber, puck hits the ice, whatever, rubber drops on ice, whatever. All his quirky sayings. He's been doing this forever. Fun story, fun one. I used to intern at CSN like 2003 when I was in college, and I remember Ron talking to some of the editors there. Ron is a big Redskins fan. Fun fact there. And he used to do his mock drafts. I don't know if he still does them, but if I recall correctly, he used to do mock drafts on, by hand, pen and paper, and he would do different iterations of them leading up to the draft. I don't think it was ever actually on TV, maybe once or twice, but it was just something that went around the office. So Ron is a hardcore football guy, but he is a Redskins fan. Anyway, John Borick. I think the 12s are always overfavored, but I think Borick is a light 12 here. His suits are absolutely ridiculous and typically have a minimum of 3 patterns, and I just don't think gangster suit plays against someone with the breadth and depth of knowledge of a Ron Burke. 413, Neil Hartman, Jen Daniels. Neil, I've been told by people who've worked for Comcast before. A fun fact from my internship, same one. Walked in the men's room one time. I'm like 20. I look like I'm 8 now, and I'm 31. Imagine how I looked at 20 or 20, 21, whatever I was, 19, 20, 21. I walked in the bathroom. And there's Neil Hartman applying his makeup. At the time, at least, Philly Sports Talk, then Daily News Live, was the only show that had a makeup artist. Everyone else had to apply their own. Neil's in there applying makeup. Make a little chit-chat while I'm taking a leak. And, he says, hey, and now keep in mind, there's only 2 of us in the men's room. And he goes, hey, do you ever need any advice on makeup? I'm your guy. So that's my one encounter in life with Neil Hartman. But been told by people that he's a really good vamper. That means when you have like 30 seconds to kill on air, he could fill it with just hot air. I'm not good at that. But apparently Neil is. So, he's the 4 seed here against Jen Daniels. Didn't get into tournament last year. Cinderella's got the slipper this year. Wouldn't be surprised here. Wouldn't be surprised if Jen Daniels pulls the upset. The women are always strong in the TV bracket, you horny voters. The 6'11", Rob Ellis, Sarah Baker. Breakfast on Broad. Debuting, I don't know, in a month or so. Whenever, sometime in April. These are going to be co-hosts. Good matchup. You're probably not familiar with their TV product. I think Rob used to produce at Comcast, but you're familiar with his work on the radio. You're sure familiar with Sarah's work on CSN, a little bit on TV, on the web, on the website. So there's your 6'11" match. The 314, Derek Gunn, Jillian Mealy. Derek Gunn, really good job this year covering the Eagles. He's boys with everybody on the team, but yeah, he does a nice job. I think he well-deserved 3 seedings. Jillian Mealy, also Breakfast on Broad. Why do I get the sense Jillian Mealy's got a run in her here? Once again, you horny voters. I got the 7'10", Amy Fadul, Jamie Apodi. Good classic Battle of the Blondes, both veterans. I kind of think of them as sort of young bucks, but they've both been around for some time, been through the ups and downs of Philly sports. Good solid matchup here. They'll play the winner of the 215, Michael Barkan, the deserved 2 seed, certainly better at TV than the radio. Could be a 1 any year, could be a 2, could be a 3. This year he got edged out by Clark, but don't count him out. Barkan versus 15 seed Danny Pommells. I am not familiar much with Danny Pommells' work product, but it's this is going to be a tough matchup against the 2 seed. Finally, if this were like a real bracket, it would be in the bottom right, so south right. The 1 seed Jim Jackson and Tom McGinnis against the 16 seed, getting a fuck ton of pushback on Twitter here. Honestly, the committee never wavered on JJ. I could see where there's arguments made for a Merle Reese. We'll get to him in a second, or a Fransky, but Jim Jackson works his balls off. He's been doing Flyers forever. He's very solid. He's good when he's done the little bit of baseball he's done with the Phillies. He knows his style. I just like Jim Jackson. He's not flashy. He's not going to be remembered as a Harry Kalas type or a Merle Reese type, but he's just solid. I feel at home. I feel home when I'm listening to Jim Jackson. So he gets a 1 seed. The 16 seed Tom McGinnis, are you kidding me? Was the reaction I got from a lot of people. It's to each his own. This isn't a ranking necessarily. I'm not saying all these guys are necessarily better than McGinnis, but, not a lot of people listen to the Sixers on the radio. So McGinnis coming out of a squeaker of a conference. If he could be the first 16 seed to pull off an upset, then good for him. They'll play the winner of and nothing against him. I am entertained, although sometimes, he might be a little over the top. The 8-9, Keith Jones, Matt Stairs. I just wanted to put them together because they're Canadian. They both kind of quirky and lovable Canadians. Take your pick. Do you want the guy who guzzles beer or the guy who guzzles beer and corn? To his credit, Keith Jones, that guy, he'll be on NBC, which I guess is filmed, the NBC postgame show, which I guess is filmed in Connecticut. And then he'll be like on the WIP morning show the next day. And then the next night he'll be alongside Jim Jackson with the Fly. I mean, the guy works his balls off. So a lot of credit for that. 5'12". Also had broad shoulders in person. He's a hockey player. Of course he does. 5'12", Merle Reese, Greg Murphy. People are upset about Merle getting a 5 seed. I don't know. Hey, I don't know how many people listen to Eagles games. I think most people have a a recollection of Merrill because you hear his calls replayed. But if you're really a true Eagles fan, you're probably not listening to a whole lot of games on the radio. So while he does have the great, historic, memorable call, if you've ever sat through a game of Merrill, it's, it could be tough to take sometimes. So I think the 5 seed is fair. If you want to put them on through, then be my guest. It's not like we had them out of the tournament here. That's why there's voting, folks. That's why there's voting. Against a 12 seed, Greg Murphy. Tough spot for Murph. The Gwen and Mercy College Notebook, which I know isn't his fault, is probably the worst thing in local sports television. It can't even be more useless. So, and unfortunately, that's sort of his claim to TV, and it's nothing against him. It's a sponsor thing, but tough spot for Greg. It's a tough spot. I'm sure Merrill's going to pull this one out. The 4-13, Larry Anderson, Malik Rose, kind of the quirky analyst matchup here. Like it for what it is. People really like LA, but Malik Rose came on strong in the early going. Problem is that not as many people sample Malik's work, so for that reason, I see Larry moving on and facing Merrill, and I see that as a real good Friday afternoon matchup in the second round. By the way, we're doing a first round Wednesday, Thursday, and then full second round on Friday. Not going to drag it out quite as long as last year. We'll still drag it out over a couple weeks, but we're not going to do it like every day. It was overkill, even for someone who loves page views, is a page view whore like I am. 6-11 matchup, Timmy Saunders and Molly Sullivan. Tim's great, very energetic on the radio. Let's go! Or whatever it is. Molly, look, Molly's probably bringing the heat here. I'm going to see Molly with an upset. Maybe even like her coming out of this little foursome here into the Sweet 16. But, yeah, a good solid matchup there. The 3-14, Bill Clement and Mike Quick, both former players, longtime hosts. The Quick seed is more, again, to get the matchup here. They're probably way more evenly matched than the seeds would have you think. This is Quick's call it a real highly rated mid-major versus maybe a low major in Clement. However you want to goofily analogize it, or that's not a word, whatever. It is a good matchup. 7-10, Chris Terry and Mark Zumoff. Saw some pushback here. I don't know why. Zumoff is what he is. The seesaw stuff, the 1-1. The shot clock is unplugged. Sometimes that gets a little bit grating. I think he's whatever. It's a fair matchup here. And finally, the 2-15. We're just going to put this shit to rest for once. Scott Franzke is the 2 seed against Tom McCarthy. Franzke's going to win this going away. The reason he's not on TV is, quite frankly, I've been told multiple times, because he doesn't want to be. So there it is. But we'll have the 2-15, Franzke McCarthy, so we can just put it up to a number. That's it. If we go through real quick and just kind of look at potential future matchups, and we'll just go through this real quickly. Again, I like a second round, just spitballing here. A second round, Cataldi, Jody Mack. That's a real classic between two longtime sports talk radio stalwarts. I see a Macnell Bruno. That's got a lot of intriguing undertones there. I mean, both Liberty broadcast shows, of course, but also Tony is kind of now in the spot Glenn was occupying 14 months ago. So lots of undertones there. Sets up maybe a Tony Angelo, Glenn Angelo Sweet 16 maybe. Who knows? Harry Mays could sneak it on out of here. We go down here. I like a Gargano Morgani, a little Italian stallion matchup. I think we had one of those last year. This is the big one right here. We're looking at Ennis Missanelli potentially. One of those two, there might be a fight. There might be a literal physical fight if Ennis tries to send Mike Flowers again. And God knows, this bracket could be blown apart from the bottom. I could see virtually anyone coming out of here. Moving on down, tough draw for Bodner. I think Shield just marches through, like I said, the body bag game here. Go down here, I could see one of these two, Kemsky, Galton, get a lot of love online, big online audiences, a very vocal crowd at Bleeding Green Nation, but Kemsky got his own following, lots of stick figures. I don't know if they have opposable thumbs, but if you don't need one to click, I see one of those guys dancing on into the Sweet 16. Over here, I think McManus is probably the guy with the most loyal online following. But if you get the Flyers fans, then you get Saravalli. What do we got here? This is a toss-up. Dick Girardi could get sort of that Dittinger legend sort of vote, but anything else can happen here. Tough draw for Elliott. Again, he got a tough one last year, but I could see him doing damage. Who knows? As we move it on down, Eskin could come out of this. I think Clark deserves it. I think he lost last year to Colleen Wolfe early on, or one of the ladies. The ladies do well in the TV bracket. I could actually see Eskin coming out of this. I could see Eskin going all the way, to the Elite Eight here, really. Not saying I endorse that, but I could see that happening. I don't know. Something tells me you got a Jillian Mealy, Jillian Sarah. I don't know. I'm feeling Jillian coming deep here out of this bracket. I don't know why. And I don't know. Fadul did real well. I think she was in the Elite Eight last year with Colleen Wolfe, now with NFL Network. Can't be in our tournament. Great videographer, however. I see Barkan coming through. And then finally down here for the broadcasters, just by the initial feedback, I'm going to go Merrill Reese coming through maybe to the Elite Eight here, and I would see Fransky coming out here, but we're looking at a Sweet 16, methinks, between Fransky and Molly, and Molly's going to be bringing it, so who knows. We look forward to your votes. First round starts Wednesday. The left side, the right side on Thursday, and then Friday will be second round, and we'll sort of regather ourselves and see where we're at next week. Probably do a breakdown of the regionals next week, and then with the Final Four sometime the following week. All right, there we go. Happy voting, Philly Sports Media Field of 64.